We've talked about a variety of ways to break bad habits, but one thing we haven't talked about yet is one of the reasons we tend to fall into bad habits when we have a plan for ourselves to stick to a good habit and then suddenly we turn around and we're in a bad habit again. And this is because bad habits are often a result of convenience. They're often a result of what I call the all or nothing mindset. If we can't stick to a good habit in its entirety, then we often convince ourselves that, well, it's not worth it, so let me just fall back into my normal routine or my bad habit or behavior. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you wanted to go for a run, right? And you're planning on running 2 or 3 miles at the end of the day. Well, you turn around and look at your clock and suddenly you realize, oh, I only have 20 minutes. And so I need to get my shoes on and get dressed and then go for a run and get out to the park. And that's not enough time for me to actually do that 2 or 3 mile run. I don't have enough space. What happens is that often when we're faced with a situation like this, we say, well, I don't have time to do it, so I just won't do anything at all. That's the all or nothing mindset coming to fruition, right? I don't have time to run the full 2 miles, so let me just not do anything. Or I don't have time to cook a full healthy meal, so let's just go get something from a fast food restaurant. Well, this idea is actually, it's a dangerous one because it drives us back into bad habits and helps us slip back into those modes of convenience whenever we're faced with a suboptimal situation. And one of the ways that we can overcome this is by using a concept which I call reducing the scope but sticking to the schedule. So the idea is you were scheduled to work out today. You had a habit that you were supposed to stick to. And just because you're not able to stick to the full scope of that habit doesn't mean that you shouldn't stick to it anymore. So reduce the scope of what you're working on, but find a way to still stick to the schedule. You don't have time to run 3 miles? Fine. Go outside, change your shoes, and run 10 sprints. You don't have time to cook a full healthy meal? Fine. Go pick up something convenient for your main course, and then maybe you have some broccoli in the fridge and you can roast that for 10 minutes, for example. But you do something that falls within the purview of the good habit that you wanted to build, rather than cutting it out entirely simply because it wasn't convenient for that particular situation. We talked earlier about the 3 R's: repeated, resilient, and reinforcing. This is where you need to make your habits resilient. By reducing the scope but sticking to the schedule, you increase the resiliency and the odds of you following through. And the idea here is that you want to have no more 0 days, right? You don't want to have days where you do nothing, where you don't show up in any way. Just because you can't show up in the best way doesn't mean that you shouldn't show up at all.